Be a nuisance where it counts.
Do your part to inform and stimulate the public to join your action.
Just outside of the high school that bears her name hang the words of Marjory Stoneman Douglas.
Be depressed, discouraged, and disappointed at failure
And the disheartening effects of ignorance, greed,
corruption, and bad politics.
but never give up.
For these students, the quote has taken on new meaning.
It does, and it inspires me every day when I walk into that school. It makes me feel so proud.
But to understand why, we have to take a step back in time and learn a bit more about Douglas.
She was tiny with these large oversized hats, but believe me, as her lore and reputation grew, you as a politician or office holder didn't want to have to be confronted with her. She came here in 1915.
Dr. Paul George, a historian at History Miami, saw Douglas speak once, about 10 or so years before her death in 1998.
She was involved in many women's causes, and she had this really adventuresome life, but also life that was meaningful.
Douglas moved to Miami in 1915, eventually settling into this Coconut Grove cottage. George says it's where the activist did much of her work, most notably the book The Everglades, River of Grass. Preserving the Everglades, says George, was a cause Douglas took up later in life, long after her time advocating for both women's and civil rights.
She was very outspoken, she was articulate, just very strong opinions, but she could always back them up with information.
Dr. George calls Marjory Stoneman Douglas ahead of her time, an unexpected force to be reckoned with. And the same could be said about the students, survivors, right here in Parkland.
I just remember at 225, my life changed forever.
It was surreal. It was like I didn't believe what was happening. And then after a few days, it finally hit me that 17 people died at my school.
Since then, students like Adam Buchwald and Zach Hibsham have been channeling their grief into a movement that is now sweeping the nation.
Any kid under 18 can't vote.
The two best friends even designed their own campaign called Parents Promise to Kids.
We want the politicians to hear our voices. With this contract, we're giving children a voice.
So far, the teens say more than 1,200 adults have signed their contract, a promise to vote for candidates supporting gun control on behalf of their children. Do you think the lawmakers are taking notice now?
They better be shaking in their boots because we're coming after them.
It's a familiar fighting spirit now that you know more about Marjory Stoneman Douglas.
She's still with us. She would be with us every step of the way.
Perhaps in her signature glasses and oversized hat, encouraging students to be a nuisance where it counts, and most importantly, to never give up. In Parkland, Kate McVeigh, Spectrum, Bay News 9.